And we're live.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Kate and Millicent. Millicent and Kate.
G'day.
Hello, hello. Are we going to talk about bathrooms again, too? Are you guys going to make me turn bright red before we start?
No, we're going to talk about the loo.
Okay.
Oh, that's perfect. Even better.
Isn't
Then
that
I'll
better?
understand what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. Because toilet is like cologne, isn't it?
Especially when you say it like that. It sounds real fancy.
Yeah, it does.
I really feel like I should probably subscribe, and being on this show now means that I have some
Damn,
sense
you're
of
like
loyalty to you.
so many other people. You're like, so many people said, I watch your show. I was like, really? Where do you watch it? I see it on LinkedIn. I was like, that's not it. Those are clips. You need to actually get into the platforms. Like LinkedIn is not a podcasting host. Okay.
No.
But we did just do the brand new webpage. Have you seen it, Kate?
I've not. I saw a LinkedIn post about it, but I haven't gone to actually see the webpage yet.
Just
Whoops.
like Millicent. Welcome to the EBFC show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction. Today's episode is sponsored by
Bosch Refine My Site is a cloud-based construction collaboration platform that applies lean principles to enable your entire team to plan, communicate, and execute in real time. It's the digital tool that works in tandem with your last planner system process and puts it all together in one simple, collaborative ecosystem. This easy-to-use platform is available in English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, and can be used on desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. According to Spencer Easton, scheduling manager at Oakland Construction,
Refine My Site, in my opinion, is the best, leanest tool on the market for last planner system.
here's what our users have to say. We've looked at 3 other digital scheduling platforms and none compare to the straightforward approach Refine My Site takes. From milestone planning all the way down to daily tasks, this program gives every general contractor and their trade partners meaningful collaboration, accountability, and KPIs. Register today to try Refine My Site for free for 60 days.
Today's episode is sponsored by Construction Accelerator.
The design and construction industries come up with and build great things, but we also build and waste in how we do those things, in our interactions, in our contracts, in our logistics. So what does this do for our bottom line or our next project? The best firms maximize their value by removing that waste and only doing what's essential to the work, what makes them money. Construction Accelerator will train you to see the waste and give your teams the lean tools and experience to remove it immediately. All online. Construction Accelerator is made up of 3 to 9 minute videos that can be watched again and again in the field, at the office, and at home, all broken down by topic. Need to learn pool planning? We have videos on the process, how to set up a room, and how to kick off a team. Need to set up a target value delivery project? We discuss all the aspects of TVD, especially cost. Or maybe you just need to brush up on 5S. Well, we have videos on that as well. You can download and print reference materials to use on site to immediately translate watching into doing. Subscribe today at trycanow.com. Let's build an industry, not just a project.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Kate and Millicent. I am so happy to have both of you on the show today. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you for threatening to almost subscribe to my YouTube channel, Millicent. I appreciate that so much.
It's an effective technique.
Yeah. It's like, I'll watch it, but I'm not sure. Should I hit that bell? Yes, you should hit the bell and get all notifications. And I just want to say before we start, thank you everybody for watching the show and helping grow this and spread the word. We love you. The whole team absolutely loves the feedback we're getting. Keep bringing it. Let's go. Kate, Millicent, who's going to fight for this intro first?
I'll go first. G'day everyone, my name is Millicent Drabble. I'm working for a general contractor right now in an operations management role. Which is pretty cool. My career is stemmed on the design side, working for design engineering firm. And it's been really nice. And I really want to talk about it as we get further in the conversation about seeing it from the design side and then the construction side and how that all really ties together in a collaborative way. The accent is Australian, in case you were wondering.
I guessed wrong, I think, the first time, didn't I?
I think the first 2 or 3 times, but it's okay. It's all right.
Hold it against me.
No. What else is that? How does that go for an intro?
That's pretty short. You could keep going. Kate, put the pressure on her. Tell her to keep talking about herself.
You're great. You're fabulous. I know you have tons of pearls of wisdom stored up to give us, so let's hear some.
I don't want to hit it too hard too fast. That's the thing.
Yeah. Don't let me interrupt you. So rude.
Yeah, why would you do that? Okay, so I am an Australian person living in Los Angeles, and it's really interesting to me right now because I've gone back to school. It seems to be my global recession approach to just like, oh, I should do another degree while things are a bit weird. So I'm doing my MBA and learning about leadership, and a lot of what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks is talking about your leadership style and how did you get here and what do you value, and it really makes you think about it. And Kate showed me this incredible spiral notebook activity so that we could really write down who we are and what we believe in. You can see it and then you have to actually do something about it. And so the critical part of my journey is I'm in Los Angeles now. I lived in New York City for about 2 years before that. I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia for about a year and a half before that. I was in Singapore for nearly 2 years before that. And then I did a stint in Abu Dhabi for 3 years before that. And then started everything in Brisbane, Australia with my family. All of that global tour through work, not just backpacking and meeting people. It's been such an accumulative knowledge growth journey that I can't say more amazing things about it to be who I am today.
That is an incredible background.
There you
Such
go.
the world traveler.
I need to take a breath because there was a lot there.
I'm feeling like I need to get on an airplane.
Right.
I mean, that's really incredible. It's inspiring.
Oh, now I have to follow
You're so
that.
humble. Right. Kate, she tried.
Kate.
Kate, she tried to be humble the first
man.
time.
I did.
And I just love how Kate called her out and said, "No, Millicent, you're greater than that. Keep talking."
Yeah,
Well,
Now, Millicent, we turn the cameras on Kate and let's see what Kate
she
says.
totally
Okay.
is. Well, mine's not going to be nearly as flashy. I work for the same construction management firm. I've been there coming up on 8 years. I technically work in scheduling and controls, but I have an interest in all things. I know, we'll get there. I have an interest
You didn't tell me. Stop my heart.
in all things operations, right? I spend a lot of time going out of my day-to-day role, so that's kind of what makes me tick. The accent is actually rural Maine, not Boston. So
Rural Maine.
yeah, my sphere is a little smaller than Millicent's. I grew up in Maine. I worked at a lumber yard. I went to school for construction management in Boston. Spent some time in corporate America, and then landed where I am now. So my journey to continuous improvement and learning kind of grew out of my role in scheduling, and just some of the things that I've seen consistently hurt teams over time. So Millicent set a really high bar. I don't think mine was nearly as inspiring, but it's sincere, right? I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. And Millicent and I are both excited, Kate, because you know each other way longer than I've known both of you, but Millicent and I are both cheerleading you because you are awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. And Kate, you and I, maybe you don't know because you don't check out my LinkedIn profile, but we both worked at the same general contractor back in the day.
Oh, we
way
did?
back. We won't name their name.
So I probably didn't click on your profile because I didn't want to appear too creepy, like I was actually stalking you. So now that I know that I'm going to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean their color is somewhere in my room.
Yeah,
I won't say what the color is.
Loud and clear.
So now
Got
you know
it.
where. Yeah, you got it. That's funny. That is so funny. No, I don't know what happened that I had maybe just I didn't drink the coffee at the right time and realized that you were in project controls.
Yeah.
That just makes this so much more juicier for me.
It does.
For all the things we're going to talk about.
We're going to bring up some dirty laundry, some schedule and controls dirty laundry.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah,
it's
speaking of dirty
interesting.
laundry.
Well,
Go
hang
for it,
on. But it was something I read, or one of your guests prior. It's, does your role really define who you are and your identity? And so Kate and I are really unpacking that right now. So sure, by title, this is who we are, but it is a lot more fun to do all the other bits and pieces that may not appear in a job description but still have a lot of impact. We're going through that right now, and you get to experience it with us. That existential who am I question. And who do I want to be when I grow up? Kate's already gotten there. She's told us that in the intro. She is
I
an
said
adult.
I feel like an adult, not that I am an adult. Very different.
Subtle difference.
That's
Okay.
awesome. Yeah,
Now
I
that you
guess
know that about us.
if you're going to be on a podcast, can we classify that as adulting?
Yeah.
We don't see kids on podcasts, right? Not yet.
Don't even say that out loud. I think something should be sacred to the grown-ups. Based on how I feel about podcasts, this should be one of those things.
Yeah, I'm sure like right now someone's going to message us and say, there is a kids podcast and it's way more popular than yours.
I will get everyone I know to subscribe to your YouTube channel immediately if that's the case. I'll do that
Okay,
anyway.
People go find that and see if that's the case. Now I'm curious. I want to listen to this kids podcast.
My kids watch a lot of YouTube. It's not technically podcasting, but they watch a lot of YouTube, which is
Yeah.
it's very strange. Similar type of thing.
That's true. I do speak at a lot of schools about construction careers, and a lot of the kids, especially in high school, like the number one thing they want to do is become a famous YouTuber.
Yeah.
And none of them know that I have a YouTube channel, so that's how I know that I'm not that person.
Nothing
I
like
tell 'em,
kids'
like, you can work
honesty to
in
like set you
construction.
straight.
Yeah, they're just straight. Like, I just want to be. I want to play video games and just get paid to game all day and have people watch me play video games.
Wow, such
I know.
aspiration.
We'll see.
So I actually,
We'll see.
so it was funny. My son last night, we were getting ready for bed, and he's like, "Mom, how long does it take to build a building?" And I was like, he's finally interested
A
in
little
what
tears in your eyes.
I do.
Yeah.
I shed a little tear, and I explained it to him, and I was like, wow. I was like, I finally feel like acknowledged.
How old is your son?
He's 10.
All right, it's good age.
Yeah.
Good job. Made mommy's night.
Woohoo! Small wins. Again, we're going to celebrate them when we get them.
Celebrate the
That's
small
it.
wins.
Small wins. We just talked about this.
So, what is the Spiral notebook? Are you guys both in school together?
No.
You're
No,
just doing
this
a
is-
I'm
separate
in
on
golf
the side.
golf school. I started golf school.
Okay. Golf school. That counts.
So Spiral Journal is it's a liberating structures thing. Have you ever done any of the
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I love liberating structures.
Yeah. So I did a thing, and Brian Winningham. So
Of course I know
he's
Brian.
doing. Yeah, I know. Everyone knows.
Shout out to Brian Winningham.
Shout out to Brian
Brian's
Winningham.
also, and we got to say, Kate, like this is the time where Felipe is like, and Scrum has been said.
Yes. Yep.
'Cause liberating structures are definitely Scrum friendly people.
Yeah.
So keep going, Kate.
Yeah. So Brian's he's doing like a coaching cohort type of thing, and it's like a small group of people. And we had our first session last week that Brian led, and he walked us through this spiral journal exercise where you have to draw a spiral for 2 minutes, right? And it's about clearing your mind. And then he leads you through these series of 4 questions. And the first question is draw your work using only pictures and no words. And it was really neat for me. I had this like mild revelation that I was like, oh my God, I'm a hub. I was like, for some reason it like never dawned on me before. I'm like, I'm a hub in my company and I get to talk to all these people and do all this great stuff. So I shared it with Millicent, and I don't think it was probably quite as impactful as like when it was a guided thing, but I shared it with her anyway.
You still did it. You inspired me enough to want to do it myself. And that's really all you could ask for with an activity like that.
That's a nice +1.
Yeah.
And so, Millicent, you drew something, and what was your epiphany?
I'm still drawing at the moment.
Are you still in the spiral?
Yeah. Still clearing my mind. Don't underestimate the chaos that's in here.
That's where creativity comes from. Comes from the chaos.
I run out of paper. Exactly. Because I had showed Kate something at the same time that made that light bulb go off. And that's one of the things when Kate and I talk, we talked about improv the other day too, where it's this whole yes and concept. And so you hear someone say something, you go, yes, and what about this? And yes, and what if you do that? And so I had shown her a mind map that I had drawn just from my early urban planning days. Was a technique we used, just draw stuff and draw arrows and circles and clouds. And so they're just like, oh, let me show you this. And that's how it came about. And so we build on each other's ideas and enthusiasm for all of the kind of stuff that we do, either if it's just started at the organization or we have an idea that we want to just sneak through to pilot to see, it's so crazy it might just work. It's fun to stay buoyant thinking about these things. It's really motivating.
Yes, it is. Yes, and Millicent, you know what I love about the two of you is that you're so far apart geographically.
Yeah.
Like we've got California and then wherever Boston is. Who knows what state that is?
It's way over
So-
on the East Coast.
We have the Golden State, which is, the better state. Love you all, California listeners. Thank you.
That's right.
And Texas. And I've got family there, so my heart's there. But the two of you stay connected, even though there's this massive divide and a 3-hour time zone difference, which is so annoying. Thank you, Millicent, for getting up early. And this is already like the middle of Kate's day. Her day is halfway over already.
It is. So Millicent, actually, a couple times lately, we've struggled to meet, and she's held meetings at 6 a.m. her time just so we can connect. So she is like committed to the time difference.
Mhm.
It's a trooper.
Well, also
It's a
shows how much
trooper.
I trust. I trust Kate in that I feel like I can be vulnerable when I talk about certain things. So her seeing me about 15 minutes after I've just woken up, I think is a really strong visual connection that we have too. I don't think you're going to recognize me the next time we actually meet in person. Like, I'm sorry.
No, we'll
I'm looking for
recognize each other.
Millicent.
Yeah, I've seen you with your glasses on. I was expecting
true.
glasses today. I mean, this could have been a 3 glasses episode.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, it's just a 2 out of 3. It's okay.
Mine aren't too shiny, are they? They don't look it.
No, they're not shiny. The lighting is really good.
I'm all about risk management. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world. And I just did not want the purple reflecty thing to be distracting from what I was actually
I didn't see
saying.
it. I didn't see it the last time, but that's okay. If it bugs you, you've got to overcome it. Well done.
Thanks.
Experiment.
Problem solver
well
here.
done.
Yeah.
Exactly. Problem solver. You mitigated that risk. Congratulations. Because this show will live on forever. Even after I die, it still stays and people will find it and watch it.
What a legacy.
Isn't that kind of wild
know.
to think about, though?
It is wild. Yeah, I told my son that the secret reason why I do this show is that so that after I'm gone, you can still get told what to do by me.
That is a legacy.
He hated that. Yeah, he hated that. He's like, I'm not going to watch it. I was like, I'm not going to give you the password, so you'll never be able to take it off.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I'm playing the long game. So I wanted to ask both of you, when we first started talking, right away, you were over the top excited about talking about bathrooms and construction. And I thought, this is going to be a really good conversation.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
I just can't help it. I gotta go there. I don't have to go now. I'll go later, but I want to go there now with you in this conversation.
Okay. Kate, you're the catalyst for this story, so you go first.
Yeah, it's
Kate, and your face is still bright red, Kate. So
I know
just keep
it
going.
always is. It's like the curse of being very pale and blonde. I listened to your podcast. I think it was you and Jason Schroeder talking about bathrooms, and it was such a simple, dare I say, elegant way. Bear with me, to show people that you respect them. And Millicent and I talk a lot about that. And I shared it with her, and I was like, what did I text you? I said, this is what I want us to be someday. And, like talking about bathrooms is funny, but just such a simple, visible, tangible way to show somebody that you respect them, right? Like you talk a lot about respect, and it's like this big fuzzy topic, right? Like, what does respect mean? And it's like, if you want something to happen, you make it tangible. And a way to make it tangible is like bathrooms, right? And, I'll be completely honest. So my husband works for a subcontractor, and I shared that with him, and he thought it was great. And I shared it with some other people, and I got laughed at a little bit. And it hurt my feelings, but that's not going to daunt my my eagerness to continue talking about bathrooms. Millicent fared a little bit better than I did talking about bathrooms.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny part is Kate sent it to me on a Thursday or a Friday, and I didn't have time to listen to the whole thing, and I wanted to go from start to finish. And so at the weekend, while I was doing my domestic chores, cleaning the bathroom, I thought, perfect time to put this podcast on. Little did I know how relevant your conversation with Jason was going to be. So when I brought it up, I'd mentioned it in 2 different places, and again, exquisite timing where we were talking about insights, the success of projects, but then there are times where the bathrooms can get, or they can be a space for harassment or discrimination in the field. And it's something that
Right.
we want to tackle head on and talk about and not pretend it doesn't exist. But you only really see it when you open the door. And so my conversation was, well, there are a lot of dudes in the field. What happens when you have more women and men, more diversity in the field? How does that go? I grew up with 2 brothers and a sister. My brothers were always taught, there are ladies around, at least clean up after yourself a bit. Be a bit more respectful in that space. What I loved was that then it turned into this diversity conversation, which then turned into what can we do? Hasn't gone anywhere yet, but similar to Kate, not giving up. Still want to keep talking about loos because it is such a simple thing. I'm going to keep laughing about it. I'm a fan of toilet humor. So.
Yeah, but see, I can't say Lou because I feel like silly saying it. So it's like you guys are going to have to take that one.
It's like I knew a guy in college, his name was Lou. So like I always flash his face comes up in my mind every time someone says the Lou.
Poor bloke.
Yeah. It is something that, a lot of project managers have decision points early in the job and they're under pressure to make their numbers and they're trying to control the budget, manage the budget. And bathrooms are something that a lot of people just copy and paste. Like this is all you're going to get, general conditions, and they don't think about it. Some of the people like Jason and I who've been to horrible conditions and worked in horrible conditions. As a man, I've gone to bathrooms that give me nightmares. I still sometimes have nightmares about what I saw in the bathroom and had to deal with. Right. And I'm a dude. So people don't get that opportunity to think about it because it's from a PM's perspective. Sometimes it's just a line on a spreadsheet of many thousands of lines that they're responsible for. But from the worker's perspective, Kate, like your husband, who has to work in this environment day in and day out, it's like a big deal.
Yeah.
Like everybody goes to the bathroom roughly 3 to maybe 8 times a day, depending on what kind of water intake you got going on. All right. So this affects all of us as human beings. And some of the things that Jason talked about and shared is that on some of his jobs, he would make it so that everybody uses the same bathrooms to just force it. He would force us all into the same thing to kind of level the playing field. There's not the ivory tower bathrooms.
Right.
And then there's the everybody else. Like, no, we're all going to go to the same bathrooms. We're all just one team. And it's something that we have in common. Like I remember I was on a job. It was a hard bid job and we were losing money. And it's kind of like, even before we realized we were losing money, the job shifted to single ply toilet paper. And I was like, oh my God, there's a canary in the gold mine.
No.
And like, as we went to single ply, like transparent toilet paper that you could see through.
The kind of terrible irony is that we literally build bathrooms, right? Like we have zero excuse. We build bathrooms. That's like what we do.
Yes. And I remember not a lot, but some teams, like when you build spaces out early, you can't use the bathrooms. Like the bathrooms we just built, as if we're not going to clean the building and turn it over. It's not like the client said in the contract, thou shall not use these toilets before we take beneficial occupancy. Like people just put these assumptions on. And we don't think about how can we, use this and still turn it over well. Like it's not against the rules. Like it's a bathroom. It's meant to be used.
It's also unfortunate that, I can't speak for California, but on the East Coast, like it took COVID for us to get running water to be able to wash your hands on a lot of job sites. And it was like this stark moment of reflection. And it was like, why didn't we always have that? Right? Like we always should have been doing that. It shouldn't have taken a literal pandemic for us to realize that.
I've been to jobs across the country, and Millicent, you've been to jobs worldwide. I didn't see hand washing stations regularly until I started working in California over a decade ago. But before that, because I'm so old, Kate, I've been over 2 decades working in construction. I can remember no hand washing stations. That was normal. Like in my early years, it was no hand washing stations, right? And you could probably ask your husband, there's probably still jobs today where before COVID, so 2019, 2018, no hand washing stations.
Yeah.
The thing to take it from COVID now, and if we're looking about the future, what will it stay or will we go back? What's going to happen is we had no qualms telling clients in the last 18 months, we need this for the safety of our employees. We need you to pay for this extra money for this fairly basic thing. It's the thing that I think about when you mentioned, Felipe, about the PMs having a dollar value on a line, if it's really important, you can go to the client and say, this needs to stay here, or this number is here because. And I would guarantee I worked on the client side for one of my roles prior. If someone came to me and said, well, you got to find an extra small in the scale of relativity dollar value for this thing, I wouldn't hesitate to say, I can find that money from somewhere else. But given the choice, again, assumptions, I've got a poster of a quote that I say fairly often that an ex-teammate cross-stitched for me. It's that impactful. If you assume you're not giving other people the ability to make a choice or influence the decision or feel like they're actually doing something for the greater good or for people, because that's really what it comes down to in most of mine and Kate's conversations is the people orientation or the people motivation. So what will happen? Will we continue to say we need this and fight for it until it becomes normal, and then something else will happen, no doubt?
Yeah, I'm going to keep fighting for it.
Yeah. Relentless.
I've been called stubborn and bulldogish, so I have no problem with those labels. And old, apparently. Millicent, you're already forgiven. Don't worry about it.
Phew. I was so worried.
You didn't care. But I wanted to ask both of you as you're pondering and taking the tasty beverage, what's it like from your perspective? Because construction on the average is about 9-to-1 men in the United States, and in some countries it's even more men than 9-to-1, which is incredibly still very high. Is it challenging or unique or different? What's changed recently? Is the industry the same as when you came in, or are we evolving?
Millicent, you want to take that one first?
I'll have a crack at it. I've only been on the pure construction side for the last couple of years, 2 years, I'd say. I've then managed the projects that went through to design and carried it forward. So part of the industry, a lot more female ratio on the design side. It was quite interesting to go from that to then see the 9-to-1 ratios in construction. I'm like, oh, where'd the women go? Cool. From moving around so much, I've just had to adapt and become mates with whoever is around me and learn from those people whatever I can. Do I miss more input and interaction with other women in this space? Absolutely. Again, it's in our organization, there are a whole bunch of us that tend to just gravitate towards each other, and we'll have conversations and be supportive, and you don't need to make a big deal out of it, but we really need a lot more people to get on board with improving the diversity. And I had the privilege of speaking at Women in Construction Week and got to speak with a few other really brilliant women on the client side and the design side. But the observation that I had made was, again, the ratio of women who showed up to that talk to men was then in the inverse. So it's women talking about what's really important to us and what our journey is. All the women showed up to support us, but it's really a lot more of the gentlemen that I'd prefer were showing up to listen to what we have to say or including us in it. And that was something that I observed, and I hadn't really thought about it too much until then. Yeah, I'd say that about sums it up.
What's funny is that early on in my career, it's not that I'm going to say it wasn't a problem. It's almost like I didn't notice it was a problem. I was similarly have been called stubborn and hard-headed, and I was just doing my job, right? And a lot of times I happened to be the only woman, and it kind of just, it didn't dawn on me. I'm going to bring up the age thing again, right? It didn't dawn on me until I got a little older, and I realized kind of a similar thing like Millicent was saying is like you're missing creativity of thought and different perspectives by not having women in the room, right? So now I'm in a position where I have no qualms to be able to say I should not be the only woman in the room, right? And we need to do something about this.
Right.
And luckily we work at an organization that has recognized that and is taking steps to address that. A lot of really, really good work. But yeah, I think it's a maturity thing. It's supporting other women. I don't know what the secret sauce was like during COVID, but Millicent and I have definitely strengthened our relationship during COVID. And there are a couple other women at our organization too that I don't even know why. Maybe I was just seeking some companionship that we've really developed a great relationship in the last year. Hopefully, a sign of good things, better things to come. But it needs work.
That's definitely something we need to keep, like the networking and connecting with other people, and like Millicent, like you said, like bringing the men along too. It is better. It's more fun to work in an environment
For
where
us,
you have
yeah.
different ideas and opinions. It gets stale when it's all just the same.
Yep.
It is better. I like it better. And when I came up in the industry, I didn't realize that it was a thing, Kate and Millicent, until we went to one of the company events. So my first job, where I was an intern, my supervisor was an engineer, and her name was Karen, and Karen was awesome. She guided me, taught me everything, and she was as old as I am now. And when I was just a, punk kid in college, and I was a punk kid when I was young, I thought I knew everything,
I
and
believe that.
I was going to live forever. It's so dumb. And Karen was so patient with me and guided me. There are things that I do today that I still do because of how she taught me and onboarded me. And on our project, she was one of two women on our project, and she was, my boss. She was awesome. She was always like listening to me and helping me with things, and encouraging me to go explore and get more involved in the field and bug the junk out of the superintendent, which was fun. And like that's been something that I've kept. Karen, thank you. That's one of the things that I still do today is bug superintendents. So thank you, Karen, if you're listening. And that was really cool. But then we went to a company gathering, and I thought that my job would look like the rest, like the company would be similar. And there were like no women at all. It was like almost zero. And it was like, it just hit me like, whoa, this is really kind of interesting. Like I had no idea. And I didn't become aware of this until much later in my career. My second or third project, it was all male teams. So that was for a while. And it wasn't until coming to California that I worked for a woman again. And the first time ever, my boss's boss was a woman who's the vice president, and she still remained a treasure and a great friend of mine. To have that kind of dynamic and relationship, there's I think a higher level of vulnerability and connection sometimes that you can make with, other people in different genders and just different experiences. Like her experiences, Karen's experiences, just totally different, unique perspective that you're not aware of. Like you just don't even understand what it's like. The same for people of color as well. It's those perspectives and just understanding that it's not the same for everyone. Everyone's coming in with different experiences. They're priceless. The insights that you get from people, and even having trade partner friends. I've got a friend who used to be a plumber, and we've become really good friends. He's now a dirty project manager. That's what I call him. But we don't hold it against him for being a PM. Like, it's okay. I used to be a PM. It's okay. I'm a recovering project manager still.
Same.
And it's interesting. Yeah. See, you're the same way.
Same.
It's perfect.
Felipe, you had mentioned when we talked the last time that you do a lot of work at high schools, and I think you said it too. And I feel like that's a really important part of trying to address that problem. Like when I was in high school, I didn't even realize construction was a viable career path. Like I went to school for architecture, right? Because that was, palatable for a woman. And I didn't realize that construction was something I could even do, right? So you're actively taking steps to fix that from the get-go.
Yeah, and that first job that I was on, Kate, we had, I remember we were in the trailer and we were building this job. This is my first job. And on the mason's crew, so people putting up like CMU walls in brick, and this is in Chicago, we do a lot of masonry. There was a woman who was a bricklayer, and everybody was just like, oh my God, like people came in, like when she showed up to work, people rushed into the trailer to like tell us that there's a female bricklayer. And it was like such a thing. And this is not like 1949, people. I'm not that old. It's 2001. And grown men run into the trailer to tell the rest of us that there's a woman out there putting bricks on the building and that we should come see it. And I'm thinking like, why? Like, is she like a brick artist? There was like something different than the rest of the crew. And like dummies, we went out there and she was just like the other people and equally as strong and stronger than some of the men on the crew. I mean, she was arguably way stronger than me. Like if you're playing with bricks every day, you're going to be stronger than Felipe. Yep. This is my mouse hand. This is for mice, It's really important and to give that option to people. Why is getting better important to both of you?
Why is getting better important? So I'll start. Getting better is important because it's about, to me, bringing quality and humility and curiosity to everything and every interaction that I do. I'm not gonna lie, like we looked at your agenda and I was like, I don't have a big fancy story of something that I improved. And I was panicking a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to go on this show and it's going to be terrible.
False.
I thought it through and we talked it through, and I realized that for me it was about lots and lots and lots of little improvements, right? And it's how those little improvements impact the people that are involved, right? And it's the satisfaction that I get from being a part of that with other people and seeing them learn and grow. So it's just, I'm going to call it curiosity, but really I just love to stick my nose into things that aren't technically my job. So for me, that's what it's really about.
I love that answer.
Use the word
Curiosity.
inquisitive then.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
inquisitive.
somebody was asking me the other day. Inquisitive.
There you go.
Yes. People are asking me like, why don't you put lean in the title of your show? And I said, because it's an American invention. Looking at companies in Japan and elsewhere in the world too, it's like the idea is really much older. It's really part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting it right there, Kate, with the curiosity and the learning. I tell people like the magic is, my other show guest, Katie Anderson, talked about this at Toyota. I love Katie too.
She's
Katie's
great.
awesome.
Yeah, I know you can't
she
you can't hear my like, like, I love her.
Katie, you hear that? You got more fans out here. Kate, meet Kate.
Yep.
She loves your work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Kate said that the secret of Toyota, or her mentor, Mr. Yoshino, said it's their attitude towards learning and how it's just what they do. And Karen Martin shared a post on Twitter the other day where Akio Toyota was talking to people on the Toyota, like the Toyota news that they do so they can try to connect all their people to the leadership. And he's talking about these stories and he's sharing really just his attitude towards learning. And when you look at his face and how he gets like lights up about the learning that he's doing, working in the company. And I mean, he's running a multi-billion-dollar company and he's excited about learning every day and going to where the work happens. And it's just like, oh, it just comes through. It comes through that learning part is so critical. So I'm glad that you use curiosity. And I know it's in Millicent's LinkedIn profile because I checked.
Oh,
so she's got it in her tagline, right?
It's true. And for me, it's not about getting better. It's about being better. And that's you being better yourself to then connect to others, because you're right. That kind of mindset radiates. It's an intangible thing, but all of a sudden you've caught it and you want to ask more questions about the how and the why and the where. Kate and I have talked about this in the West region where I am. For about a year or a wee bit more now, we've been doing lessons learned on our projects. And it's I need agendas in my meetings to at least keep things a bit focused. But like you, I love to go off on tangents to say, well, tell me more about this based on what I hear. And the best part is not so much, and everyone's going to hear my ulterior motive now. Yes, you get to learn when you talk about your mistakes, and it's the continuous improvement for the organization. But there's something to be said for you as a human being becoming more comfortable talking about your mistakes, or you as a person feeling safe in this environment to say, oh, I heard you say that thing, I'd like to learn more. Then that spurs into something else. And it's an evolutionary thing that I find so important for myself. It's been really, really heartwarming for me to see over the last year, just the confidence grow in those lessons learned meetings. I had a superintendent send me a text after one of them more recently saying, thank you for setting these up so that I can talk about my mistakes and learn from others. Completely unprompted. And that's, like Kate says, just such a small little win for someone to acknowledge that moment and that environment that it could carry forward. So it's about being better. I've taken a lot of risks. Like I said, risk management. And I really feel like you also get better when you just dive headfirst into this risk. Like you do something that might terrify you. I'm almost like a risk junkie now with that kind of thing, because there's a bit of a rush to it. There's an exhilarating feeling and you go, wow, I did that thing when I didn't think I could. And it just makes you that little bit stronger, that little bit more self-aware, which is such a valuable concept. And you're like, well, what else can I do now? It's almost like this feeling of invincibility on the inside that keeps me motivated. And it's the stories that people will tell when you're learning something from them. That's my favorite part. The technical stuff, sure, I could read that in a book or watch a YouTube video. But when they tell the story about how something profound nearly happened to them, or that they felt this way in reaction to a particular situation, that's my favorite part, because they've opened up, they want to share, and they're comfortable doing that, and then there's something in return between the two of us, that moment. That's my favorite part.
Well, and that's when the magic happens too, right? That's like when you
Yeah.
develop real trust. And that's like, you know,
Mhm.
people talk about like executional improvements and getting better on the job site. And it's like, you want that? Like, start with trusting people, giving them a safe space, a space to take risks, right? Like, you guys, you probably can surmise this, but like this for me is a huge risk. Like, not being in control of the agenda. Like, I was sweating before this meeting, right? It was terrifying, right? And I have no problem public speaking. Like, I get up in front of groups all the time, but I'm in control of the agenda. So this kind of like off script, it's terrifying for me. But then I was like, you know, I can't in good faith ask other people to be vulnerable and share things if I'm not willing to take risks on my own too, right? So this is continuous improvement.
It was. And Kate and Millicent, people that don't know that we had one or two calls before.
I think just one.
Just one.
Is it just one? Oh, I felt like it was like two. Like, we've known each other. We're just kindred spirits. And
That's
we
it.
were,
Yep.
when we first were just talking, like, this is why I do the show, so that people can talk and it spurs conversation and insights that you not necessarily have. And we got to be vulnerable to make that happen. Kate, you nailed it. Like, if you can't have trust without vulnerability.
Yep.
You're never going to get real trust without it. And we love that you came on. And I told you that the agenda that I gave you is just the bullshit agenda.
Yeah, I know. It made
So
me
you're
feel
really-
in control though. Like, I was like, okay, there's an agenda. I'm going to put some notes down and I'm going to feel good about it.
But really, Kate, you're in control, because you can just choose not to answer. Whenever you don't want to answer, you just tell Millicent to answer.
Yeah, I know. She's my wing woman.
Yeah.
That's right.
And she'll
I'll
take
always be there. Yeah.
Now, Millicent, you said you wanted to share a story that you wanted to go into later. It's now later.
Already? Jeez, time flies. Too many stories now. Okay, so in the theme of continuous improvement and people, this is probably a really nice segue. Also for me to learn the pure construction side, again, because coming from design and international and now dealing in the field, I set up these things called the Meet the Super series. And I'm so proud of it. I'm just using your YouTube, your podcast, to be able to talk about something that I'm so proud of. And look, I'm not saying I'm the one that invented it, but the concept of it should be a lot more common than I really feel it is. So we're a construction management, general contracting firm. We've got these great blokes and women out in the field. But I heard a lot when I had started where they say, I feel like I'm on an island, or because we are so dispersed geographically with our projects. So I do what you do, where I interview a superintendent. It's called Meet the Super. It's very informal but structured behind the scenes. So it's videos on wherever they are. It's on a Friday, so usually we get Aloha Hawaiian shirts for Aloha Fridays.
Nice. It's a
And-
very Southern California thing. It's very,
It
very
is.
prolific, from San Diego all the way to Santa Barbara. Hawaiian
Yeah.
shirt Fridays. It's a thing.
It's a unifying thing, though, that I love that you could pick your mate out of the crowd. I prep them first as well, get them ready, and usually we start with the how did you get into construction, and then my question to them is, well, what do you want people to know about you? And it's such an interesting tension where someone says, oh, I'm on an island, people don't know me, but you give them the chance to say, well, what do you want them to know about you? And it's, I don't know. And so it's been so much fun to really get to know these people in a deeper way, because for me it'll always come back to people. I'm in the people business by trade and by nature, and so just by interviewing these superintendents, they've got a bit of a script, they can anticipate the questions, but sometimes I'll sneak in a follow-up that they're not expecting. But the coolest part is the crowd then. We have people who dial in to watch these things, and then an assistant project manager said to one of the supers, it was really great on this project where you actually got down on your hands and knees with us and you helped us clean up the floor. We really appreciated that. And then someone else said, oh, I remember when we were going through that change order with the client and you helped check this. And then more people start to just talk about how much they appreciate their team member and value their contribution to the team and then value them as a person. Just the feedback that I get from the superintendents who, like Kate and I are going to do when we get off the phone, we'll call each other and go, what a rush, that was amazing, we did it. I hate talking about myself, but that was pretty cool. Because again, when you're in that environment where people are receptive and they want to know more about you, you then can't stop. You want to keep sharing that to build that deeper connection. So it's just been such a fun and interesting thing to try, because it hadn't at least been done in this organization before. And now we're yes-anding to say, well, what can we do next? How can we do more of this? How can we connect better with the field based on the industry that we're in? And then recognize the trade partners. Like, what's next? That's the fun part.
That is beautiful.
It's been so nice.
Millicent's such a great host too that like I call in every so often, and even like I get excited. I found out that one of the supers has a philosophy degree. He grew up like 20 minutes from where I live now, and it was just it like, again, it was a tiny little thing, but it was so amazing. I was like, oh my, like I never would have known that about this human being that I work with, right, beyond his title. It's really
another person from rural Maine.
No, from Mass. He lives close here in Mass. But you know, it's really great to see this kind of stuff percolating in the organization. I am unabashedly trying to nick it and make it a thing in Boston too. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're trying.
Just do it. All you need to do is find Kate, one person.
Yeah.
Find one superintendent. And just
and
turn your camera on and off you go.
The reason I got my first superintendent, so last year we were in reactive mode to say we've got to do certain things to keep people connected. And I happened to be doing a very small project for a great client, but it was all night shift because the restaurant was open during the day. And so me and the superintendent were doing the night shift together. I thought, I want to keep you company. It would be a great chance for me to get to know you. And I have no meetings between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. So I feel like I can get a lot of work done for a change. And so we were just sitting talking, just opposite each other, safely distanced in these booths. I thought, I really feel like more people should know you based on what we're talking about at the witching hour. He's like, no, I don't like speaking. I said, look, I'll coach you through it. This is great training for you. I sold him. I'm an excellent saleswoman when I need to be. And so he was the first one. And it wasn't a publicized thing. I sent an email to the group, and that's exactly it. It was the catalyst for just, well, it's so crazy it might just work. It kind of worked. What happens if we do it again? That's the thing I like about continuous improvement is you can keep trying stuff and keep doing interesting things, but then you've got to find that pause to take a breath to say, well, how did it all go? Or what were the course corrections that we've made through this? How can we build on that? And then you get the offshoots. You can't just keep running in that direction to keep trying different things without that reflectiveness.
Millicent didn't even tell you the best part, which is the emails that she sends out to prep for the meetings.
Oh, tell me.
They are truly a thing of beauty. I don't even know how she gets these pictures of people, but she'll like dig up a picture from their past and like, I don't know if you've got like great Photoshop skills or how that even comes, but she sends them to me every week and they always make me laugh.
What are the pictures of the people being spoken about, or?
Yes and no. So one of the more seasoned superintendents, he volunteered. I asked, he gave it to me, so there was no coercion of an unsavory kind. But it was his high school graduation photo from the 70s. And again, when you can laugh at yourself, because Kate and I have a new tagline called Play in the Grey, which we can unpack another time. But it's, if you can't have fun and take a load off and laugh at yourself, or see a picture of your mate and go, oh my gosh, that's hilarious, then what's the point? I would struggle in that more stale environment without the humor. And so, again, being in pure construction, that's the lens that people see me in now. But I spent 15 years before that working for urban planning firms. I'm very good at Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. That's my secret superpower now. And so
Now we all know. Secret's out.
I want people to know, though, why would you not want to add more of who you are to what you do now to then inform and influence the environment, the work environment that you're in? And so sometimes I do Photoshop, and I'll Photoshop faces onto other figures or into the environments of projects that we've done. We've got a gentleman today that I'm actually really excited about, and I recreated Google search, and I wrote his name, and then I came up with, it looks exactly like Google, but it's actually all about him. And then there's 17-year-old in the service photograph of him, and my favorite part is when people write to me and say that was a really good one or hilarious.
It is truly amazing.
I'm
She's
saying-
like not even giving herself enough credit. It was like, it was so funny and it was so well done.
I'm glad that both of you are on here so that when each of you takes your turn to be humble, the other person can tell the truth.
It's a setup.
It's so hard. Like in construction, you've been conditioned and brainwashed to never stand out.
Facts.
And if you
Yep.
stand out, right? Look at both of you nodded your head instantly when I said that. Like I've been the squeaky wheel that gets not oil, but a hammer to the head.
Yeah.
So I've been that.
Yes.
Millicent and I
that stand-up.
laugh.
I
'cause
try
I'm
being
like,
a woman doing it.
Yep. Like I say stuff and people just look at me and they're like, what planet are you on? I'm like, oh, well, you don't have to like it.
Yeah, keep saying it, Kate.
Yeah.
Keeping yourself. That's I have the pleasure of and honor of mentoring some people, some younger people in the industry that are, 2 years, 5 years in. And one of the things that I always encourage my mentees is you need to bring yourself here. And there will always be people that tell you, ugh, no, we don't like that. And I said, that's just like on YouTube, like a thumbs down. A thumbs down is just some information, but you decide how to react to that versus a thumbs up. You still have to be authentic. And if you give into that 10 years later, you wake up and it's not you anymore and you hate yourself and you hate your job.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. Like there's always going to be people that don't get your humor. Your humor is not for them. Right. But for other people that laugh and get it, find those people or eventually they'll understand you. Sometimes this could be a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Like when Millicent talked about how old I am and I didn't hear it.
You got to find your tribe though. That's like a real thing. That's the thing that we talk about a lot is finding your tribe.
Yeah.
Sometimes your tribe might be a little bit outside of your organization. And like that's a good thing too. Like throughout COVID, it's like I really expanded my LinkedIn network. I was telling Millicent the other day, I was like, I've curated my LinkedIn feed to be a thing that I enjoy, right? Like every day I open it and I learn something or I see something that inspires me. And it's like these people, although they don't actually know me, like they're my tribe. Like these are the people that I want to interact with and that I want to be around. So your tribe can be within your company. Your tribe can be like even bigger too.
We work for an organization that's very supportive of innovating and trying new things. And sometimes you just have to do a thing and say, look what I did to like, that broader group. Because not everyone has varying degrees of imagination. And sometimes if you haven't done something, you can't quite relate to it, connect to it. It takes that sort of heightened sense of emotional intelligence to be able to say, all right, I'll hear you out for this one. And so to be in that test environment, to just try it and then say, I did a thing. And someone will go, oh, okay, try it again and then come back to me.
A great example of that. So I did a time location chart, like the time-based schedule with all the lines. And I was super proud of myself. I sent it to a super and he goes, this looks like my kid dumped pixie sticks on the floor. I was like, all right. But then I showed it to somebody else and they had this like light bulb moment and they're like, oh my gosh, my plan assumes that this trade is going to demobilize and remobilize like 8 times. Right. So it was just, you have to find like what sticks. And some people are going to look at you sideways and say that you're working with pixie sticks and some people are going to like it.
Yeah. Some people don't care that the trade has to mob and demob and they don't realize what that costs them.
True story.
Their productivity is taking a nosedive.
True story.
Like we want to keep people on actively working. That's why tack time is amazing. Location-based scheduling is amazing.
Oh,
there are really good things out there. Is Tact your new
Katie
jam?
Anderson and Tact. Those are like my two. I've almost got some teams convinced to use it right now. So I'll share like a quick story. we have a project right now. It's a really complex renovation, and it's over budget, had some staff change, right? It's a challenging job. And I have no doubt that this team will get it done because they're amazing and they're creative and they're hardworking. But it's a little bit of chaos right now. And like my type A personality, I want to be like, you guys have to use tact. And here, look at these 8,000 videos that Jason Schroeder's done. It's going to be amazing. And it's going to be awesome, right? But they kind of don't have the headspace for that right now. So instead, we had this amazing discussion last week about chaos and calm and predictability and certainty and flow and roadblocks. And it was like they engaged in this conversation. And so it's like I'm trying to plant this little seed because I was like, here, use this tool. They'll be like, I don't have time for that. But it was like they got there on their own, and it was like this amazing, again, it's like a small win. Like nobody in my company sees that except for that room that I was in with these people. But like for me, that was like a huge win last week.
I mean, just to be able to talk about chaos and calm in a construction job.
Yes.
Kate, that's a win too.
I know.
Even if they would have done nothing.
I know.
I mean, you just bringing that conversation, that's incredible.
It was really fun, and it was cool, and they were into it, and they talked to me about it. So it was very refreshing. And so we'll bring up age again. The project manager is quite a bit younger than me, and the super is quite a bit older than me, right? And so it was like a really good mix of like viewpoints. So it was really fun. It was amazing.
That is
I'm really
fun.
proud of you. I hadn't even heard that story.
Yeah.
It's a small win. She's so into the weeds, laughing at your emails that you're sending with these.
Yeah.
It's very well done.
Felipe, I have to make a confession. So I don't even have Photoshop skills, but what I did is I took, Pennywise the clown when he's when he's looking out of the sewer grate, and the kid, what's his name? What's the kid's name? In any event, he's got like the yellow rain slicker on, and he's like reaching down, and on the clown's head, I wrote EBFC, and then I wrote me on the kid. Because like I was so scared like coming into this week. I was like, that's how I feel today.
The EBFC Pennywise clown. That is just lovely. But I had the same thing happen, Kate. A week ago, I was minding my own business, and I got a text message from a superintendent, and it was like a picture of a conference room, like way zoom backed, and he just says, "What do you see?" And I saw a TAC plan, and I instantly like sent him back. I hearted it. And then started blowing up my phone to him. And then I finally called him. And he said, I tried it. And he's like, the subcontractors loved it. Yeah. He said, I'm having trouble convincing my staff. He's like, but they just get it. And I was like, subcontractors get it because they know how to make money. Yeah. And so they always get it. They understand.
Maximize their ability to make money, you're going to get better results. And if you show them, like here, like I don't want to look at 35 pages of CPM schedule, right? And I know the schedule lady is saying that, and it's funny, but like you can put that on one page, they can easily understand. Like that is a huge win.
Yeah. No. That's going to be the clip. The schedule lady saying that. That's going to be your hashtag, Kate, the schedule lady.
Yeah, I know. So I laugh about these things a lot because I'm the schedule lady, and it's like, and then I'm the person who's telling them to hold back and not add too much detail or try, like, I don't want you to do a schedule. I want you to like literally color on a logistics plan what you're going to do. And so every time I do that, I laugh because I'm like, the schedule lady is telling you not to do a schedule. So.
Oh, I got to do a quick question to you, Kate, on that note.
Yeah.
Since you're telling people that, and you're coming from that perspective, how do you feel about this question? So first, this is not the question. Do you have teams doing last planner system or pool planning?
We do. Yep.
Okay. From your perspective, from the schedule lady, I'd like to get the official word.
Okay.
Should the activities on the pool plan go 1-for-1 in the CPM schedule? Yes or no?
No.
Yes. Jason, can you hear it? Jason's smiling right now, wherever he is.
It's not adding value, right? If things are working like they're supposed to, the boards speak for themselves, and you shouldn't have to pull it back into the CPM. Like, listen, CPM has a place, right? Some people need that, but if the boards are working well and they're communicating the information to people, and again, we'll talk about fear. It's scary. People are so used to using a CPM schedule that it's really scary at the prospect of not having that. It's almost like a binky, right? Like it's giving up your binky and it's letting it stand on the wall. But I had this conversation with a coworker of mine in New York last week, and she was like, "Oh, I got to pull all this detail back in." And I was like, challenge them a little bit and say that this is not adding value, right? And if the boards are working, let them just hang on the wall and let people look at that, and that should give you everything you need. So,
Oh my God, I love that.
yeah.
You just made my day.
Woohoo!
Oh, that was awesome. That was so awesome. Millicent, you have something you want to add to that?
No, I'll leave you to it. I can't top that.
You get to, yeah, for people listening to the show, when the schedule lady was talking about how it's not value added, I was jumping up and down. So you want to watch this on YouTube to see me literally jumping up and down when she was saying that. That was precious, Kate.
Yeah, good. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I've added my value for today.
My God. So I want to ask, let's put Millicent in a tough spot. We're going to ask her a hard question. You've moved around a lot. You've worked in a lot of different areas and environments. You've got a very broad perspective that I think, if I had to put a number on it, probably 99% of the people that work in the same place and never leave their hometown might not have. What advice would you offer someone who feels like they're stuck and going nowhere?
I can relate to that feeling. So my thought process was I went back to that place and then I thought about how I have gotten through it. Here's the Australian lady's advice. Speak to someone adjacent to your environment. If you're in construction and you're feeling stuck, you work on a project, you can't figure it out, talk to the design team, talk to a trade, talk to the person that's going to operate that facility after you finished building it. And the reason why, to me, that's a very effective technique. One, again, it's always about talking to somebody else, but it helps you see your slice in the perspective or the grand scheme of the entire thing, where what you're doing has meaning and value to someone else further downstream. Or a designer has spent months coming up with this design and poured their heart and soul into this concept. You're the person that's now creating it, making it tangible for them. And that means something to that person. So it helps take you a bit out of your head to zoom up and see there's a lot more going on here. My role is very critical. What else can I do then to try and unstick myself in that space? But you're going to get a bit more perspective. Class that I'm doing right now, we listened to a TED talk about when you go into your head, you start to ask yourself, why? Why is this happening to me? Why am I struggling? And the lady talking about this had said, the why stuff, you spin into this vortex of yourself and it's very hard to get out of it. And she said the people who successfully have that self-awareness and the introspective mindset is you ask the question what instead. What can I do to get myself out of here? What else can I learn to feel like I'm more successful or that I'm less of that I know more than I think I do? What was the advice that my mentor gave me about a very similar situation that they were in? And so it's crazy that we're talking about this right now, and I only watched this video last night, but it's the doing words, the future focus, rather than allowing yourself to get stuck in that space. And from what I've done by traveling around, it's talking to so many different people and hearing their stories that's helped put things into perspective for me. This is a bit of a morbid story. I don't know why I'm going to say it, but it's going to come out anyway.
Do it. Do it.
What can I say? You bring out the best in me, Felipe. When I lived in Abu Dhabi, one of the Prophet Muhammad's birthday, it's a long weekend, and it got announced, and I flew to Kathmandu for a long weekend. I wanted to go, very drawn to the Nepalese environment, so I went there, and one of these places is where they do the public cremations. So there are the bodies and the pyres, and they burn, and you get swept into the Ganges. And you can sit on the other side of the river and watch these things. And again, my design brain, it was quite cool to see that there's a bridge that runs through the middle to cross the water, and on one side it's water, so it's almost dammed up to the bridge because that's where you wash the bodies before you burn them on the other side. The other side is then the burning. And there was a young woman about my age who had died, and her family was washing her body. And the sound that the mother was making, it was really sad and hard to watch, but it was there in front of me. Sitting you're going to have to convert 2 meters into feet and inches for me. But sitting about 2 meters away was a family celebrating. They were having a picnic right there. It was joyous and it was fantastic. And these two different feelings were side by side. It all kind of connects in this ecosystem of sometimes it's going to be bad and sometimes it's really going to be good, but you've got to see the big picture that it continues and there's more to it than just you. And that's the memory that I think about when I get a bit stuck sometimes, is that I'm still alive and there are people that I can talk to and great mentors that I have through my travels and my careers. Yeah, that's a bit of an odd story to say on a global podcast. But
It's a good story. I like that. It's the cycle. It's real.
yeah, yes. Yeah.
Sometimes we forget. Like, remember when I was a punk kid and first working? I didn't think about that other side of the river. I was too focused on the right in front of me side. And when you're young, you don't have that perspective all the time to look forward and be forward thinking. You're just so in the right now.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Millicent. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was.
And I want
No
to
worries.
flip the script again. Kate and Millicent, you can ask me anything and I will answer you.
Ooh, I got to think for a second. Millicent, you got one
Go ahead.
on top of mind?
Yes, I do have one. And it ties to what we were talking about with continuous improvement, but then checking in and adjusting. Of all the improvements and the betterment ideas that you've heard in your career, is there one that you've tracked and followed to then see how it has evolved and influenced our industry?
I think one of the most, that's a great question, Millicent. and I have an answer because that's just how I roll. One of the most prolific small ideas, and it's marketed very well. It's this idea from Paul Akers, who runs this fabrication shop, like a millwork specialty shop. And he's coined this phrase, 2-second lean, 2-second improvement. And he's traveled to Japan multiple times and he's gone all over the world. And some people don't like his personality and his style, and some people love him. And there's like a mix. It's like a good and a bad, but his idea, when he had all those experiences, and his books are free, his videos are free. He even has an app so you can get his book for free. And the book is called 2-Second Lean. Yeah, he's got a free app.
I actually just downloaded it and listened.
There you go. So
I'm going to subscribe to his YouTube channel as soon as we end this show.
Yeah, before mine, I know.
Yes.
Keep me in the shadow. It's okay. It's okay. So, but Paul's idea, he's gone all around the world. And he says the same thing that we talk about, that it starts with the people, and the respect for people is so critical. But the other part is, because you're a person, and he has this, and he says it so well, what small thing you ask people, set the bar really low, like really low, so you can easily just step over it and jump over it every day. There was a brilliant person that took this concept. So the answer is that 2-second improvement. That idea of just doing something to shave 2 seconds off of something you're doing, because you're doing it and your time is limited. Like, there are other times where, he talks about it longer, and I've heard other lean thinkers talking about this the same way. Like, we recognize that our time on earth is limited, and because it's limited and we have this time, we need to take advantage of the time we have. It's the one resource we can't make more of. So that's one of the impetuses to action. Like, why am I so obsessed with continuous improvement? It's because I am obsessed with living my life as fully as possible. I want to have a complete experience, all of my senses. Some people have even called it marginal gains. We saw this with the UK's biking team when they went after they hired a new coach, and I'm forgetting his name, and he said, we're just going to make marginal gains every day. So they looked at the athletes, and they had not won. They had never won a tour. And so they said, like, let's look at the pillows that the athletes sleep on. Let's get them the best pillow, and then let's have that pillow for them every hotel they stay at, so they always have a consistent sleep. Then they looked at their gear, the showering, the type of lotions, and even special shampoos, so that if they had allergies, they didn't have any kind of issue with their hair while they're riding a bike race. And simple little tweaks. They made all these little tiny tweaks, and then they won, and then they won again. And so those little tiny tweaks, they went from never winning to winning. And it happened very fast. He said it would happen in 5 years, and he was wrong. I think it happened in 3 years. But those little improvements add up so quickly. There was another nerd, Millicent, that put this on LinkedIn. I can't remember who it was, but they showed it was the number one raised to an exponent, like a 0.01. And they showed like over time, if you make, and then someone decoded it to put it into like for non-nerds, it's an exponential curve over time. If I do something better every week, like let's say I do one experiment a week, like just how I record my shows, or how I engage with project teams, or how I talk to new hires, or how I talk to high school kids that want to be YouTube superstars. If I come at them like the same way and don't change, my results will be 50-50. It lands, it doesn't land. But if I do that reflective moment, like you said, like I have an event and maybe I go contact somebody who was there, get some rapid feedback, make a tweak, and then do that every time I have a talk. If I do that engagement, 52 weeks a year because I don't take vacation, then that's 52 times I've made improvements in a year. So me right now, a year later, I'm 52 times improved from when I was at this time. So I think that is like so valuable, and people just miss that. I keep a journal and it's just out of reach. I can't grab it from here. But in my journal, I write down like I plan to do, there, you have yours there. I plan to do this tomorrow, and Kate has hers too. The three of us are all journaling. And so like I'm always looking for those, like, what is a little thing I could do a little bit better? And I was watching even just the show. Like I watched the first show versus the last show just to see the contrast. And I saw contrast. And I was like, I'm doing it. And then the same with working with teams. Like we've had multi-million-dollar impact. We've had $1 billion revenue impact on sales for our organization for experiments that we started just 5 years ago. We went from not being able to compete in a certain space, a high collaboration intensity, to where the client is like, thank you, right? That happened in less than 5 years.
Yeah.
So those little tiny gains are really what you want to go after. And what Paul says so eloquently is fix what bugs you. He still says it today. I just watched a video this week.
Kate.
Right, Kate? Fix what bugs you.
I think I
if you're
emailed you that a
frustrated,
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So Kate's on that same channel.
Yeah.
Kate, you have your question ready now?
I want to hear about a risk that you've taken recently. I'm going after
A risk?
Millicent's soft spot.
I think we're on this podcast. Let's talk about the podcast, all right?
Okay.
So when the pandemic hit, I used to speak at conferences, webinars, in-person things, and when the pandemic hit, all that stopped. It just went to zero. They couldn't imagine, like, how can we do it? Like, to pivot to do online, when you look back, it looks like it happened like that. But in reality, it took some organizations never pivoted. There were some conferences that just got canceled or postponed. And then some organizations did pivot. And one of the things that I was told, I had been encouraged, this was 5 years in the making, Kate. For 5 years, I had a friend telling me every year, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. Brittany, if you're out there, Brittany, thank you again for encouraging me and never giving up on me, because Brittany was relentless. Every time she talked to me, she said, the conversations you have with people are valuable and people want to hear it. And she's like, just do it anyway and you'll get better. She's like, I know you're going to make it better. So then I launched the show and I told my boss at the time, I said, hey, I just want to let you know I started this podcast. I didn't like ask for permission because that's awkward, Millicent. Like you said, just do it first.
I can
relate.
relate.
And then tell people you did it, right? So all of you out there that you're thinking about doing something, just do it. And then tell people you did it after you do it. Don't have intentions of doing something. I had intentions of podcasting for 5 years, or not even my intention. Somebody had intentions for me to do this for 5 years. And I finally gave in. And then when I did it, the first guest I talked to, Josh, he was like, this is risky for me. He's like, but I'll come onto your show because I know you and I trust you. And so I'll do it. And then we did it, and it was a huge risk. And I thought, it's just going to be me and Josh that watch this, right? Because we're both in it. So that's like all we're going to have. And that first show was a huge risk. And I even talked to some people in my company, and they, a lot of them, in the first, when nobody was watching, because in the beginning, nobody's watching, their responses to me were like, meh. Or they were like, that's cute.
Aww.
Or, in the beginning, that's what it was like. I kept at it. I remember the reaction, what it meant to Josh and what it meant to me, and the things that we talked about help people. I mean, I had a review just yesterday that someone said, you're not just some GC trying to win work. And I published that review. I was like, yeah. I was like,
yes.
We win work anyway. But, But that's not the intent of the show.
Yeah.
So that was a huge risk. And even people in my family, not everybody in my family said, you should do this. Like, so it could have been a complete flop and a fail. And so that was risky. And my reputation, I guess I didn't even factor that. I just had a need. I had to do it. I had missed that outlet was gone where I can connect with people, share my stories, inspire other people. That had vanished because of the pandemic.
The world
So it
needed
was
more
a great,
Felipe.
it was a great catalyst to give
yeah.
more Felipe back and to share. And it's still, it's even risky now, Kate. It's not less risky today than it was when I first started. Like, people don't understand why I do the show. Like, it's in the tagline, why the show exists, but I still have to say it out loud. Like, we want to help people see that you can actually work easier and better. And a lot of the things that people are sharing, like the things that you guys are sharing, it's out there in the public domain, but people need to see themselves in it. They have to hear other human beings and then find, like you said, I think you guys perfectly said it, find your tribe. There are people that are interested in having better experiences in every single organization, every single family. There are not complete tribes of curmudgeons. There are not complete tribes of people trying to preserve some nostalgic view of history and time capsule the whole world and just like, you know, like the boss in the Lego movie, try to micromanage and super glue everything to stop it at his idea of perfection. Yeah, those people exist. They're out there, but there are way more people that want to have a good experience and actually enjoy being alive. Those are the people
they
that
tend
this
to have
is
less
for.
traction than they think they do. Like,
Yeah.
They'll go off and do those things, and we'll be over here having a blast doing something pretty amazing.
Millicent's whole computer just like exploded.
Yeah,
She's
what
like,
happened?
yeah, her screen, I saw it here. It blipped purple. She was so concerned about the purple. Her video blipped purple. and then
She was prophetic.
and then it just shut off.
She knew it was going to happen.
It just wasn't in her glasses. She's psychic. But it has been a pleasure having you
goodness.
and Millicent.
She is
This has
like
been so
really,
much fun.
I'm going to gush about her when she's gone. She's such an amazing addition to our resource or to our company. The perspective that she brings and she gives so freely of her time. Her and I connecting has been like one of the high points of the last year in my career. So don't tell her I said that.
I can tell. No, I'll tell her. This is being recorded. This is being recorded, Kate. I'll make sure she gets it.
Well, if there was a time to have technical difficulties, at least it was at the very, very end. Today was a blast. I had said earlier that this was something that was scary and new for me. And I really enjoyed being able to talk about what we do and talk about it in a fun way. And we made a new little tribe today. So I thank you for allowing me into your tribe. And I look forward for what's to come next.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. You're always welcome in my tribe. You got me to jump up and down, Kate. That's a first. That's a show first.
Yes. Yeah. Poor Millicent. All right. Well, Felipe, thank you. On behalf of both Millicent and I, thank you for today. We had a lot of fun.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.